I am an only child, so I don't know what it's like to be in a big family, but you were in a family of 11 children?
We had 12 originally.
12 children.
Yeah.
So what was that like?
Two passed away, so we have 10. It was actually very noisy. You, I think, learnt a great deal of empathy for others because you're in an environment where something was going bad every day in our household and something was going good.
What part of Australia were you growing up in?
Melbourne.
Melbourne. So when your parents are producing new children regularly, did you ever ask them what was going on, or?
Hadn't quite thought about it in that language. We didn't think of it as a production line. We more thought of it, here's Nicholas. Wow,
okay.
Isn't that great? You know,
your father had a job where he could afford all those kids easily?
No, he was an engineer working for a large corporation, and ironically, he counseled me my whole life, never work for big business.
Okay.
You need to be independent, control your own firm, as he called it. He set off, he was an engineer, and he set up his own practice when he had 7 children at the age of 37 with no income. And obviously was successful. He was not particularly financially motivated. He was very intellectually curious. And to him, education, reading, ideas, debate were the essence of what our family functioned around.
So you live here now, but do you go back and see your siblings, and what do they think now that you're a famous person in the United States? Do they look on all of you, or they don't treat you any differently than they did when you were growing up?
You mustn't know my siblings very well, or Australians for that matter. No, there's actually a cultural phenomena in Australia which I think is a truism. It's called the tall poppy syndrome, and in any field of poppies, there's always 1 or 2 flowers that grow above and they sort of they disrupt the beauty of the field, and you chop them off to keep that. And in Australia, they equate the tall poppy syndrome is that if you're extremely successful, you have a higher burden to be more modest and to give back more. There's sort of a reverse psychology. My family is great. I'm very close to my siblings. We always get together for dinner when I'm down there, and I have a terrific time. They've all been, I guess, successful in lots of different ways. One was a stand-up comic for a while. One has been one of the top judges down there. They've all done different things and had fulfilling lives. So no, there's no awe, I can assure you of that.
So you went
to like James, your turn to get the barbecue going, you know.
So you were educated as a lawyer in Australia, so you could have practiced law, I assume, there, but you chose to come to business school in the United States. Why did you choose to not practice law and come all the way to the United States? And did you intend to stay here, or do you think you were going to go back?
Well, I practiced law for 4 years, actually, and I was not very good at it. I had my 2 elder sisters were both lawyers and were both terrific. And I was more interested in being where the decisions are being made. And lawyers are, you know, their job is to create the structure in which decisions can operate and can be processed well, to clean up after there have been problems, to document and help the negotiation of things, but then they're not at the decision point. And for my career, I've always tried to get closer and closer to being the person or part of a team that's making decisions. It's just everybody has different things which excite them.
But you're practicing law, presumably you're making some money, but you gave that up to come to business school in New York at Columbia?
At Columbia, yeah.
Columbia. And so what was it like when you came here? Did people make Crocodile Dundee jokes about Australia, or they didn't do that?
They did, actually.
Really? Okay.
And I was very lucky because I have a very ugly scar on my arm. From when I played football, which I wasn't very good at, but I got a major scar from it, so I can pretend to be good. And people would say to me, is it true all Australians wrestle crocodiles? I say, well, not all of them. They, of course, leads the question, well, did you ever wrestle crocodiles? Well, of course, you know.
Right, okay.
It's what we do, and I show them my scars. So
okay.
It was,
all right,
no,
so
but New York, you know, I came to the States because, you know, seriously, there was an advertisement at the time which I think I saw growing up in Australia, but maybe I saw it in the US, which essentially said, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And the concept that this was a land that if you came to, you worked really hard. I borrowed 24% interest to come here, paid for all my student loans. You worked really hard, and you could be successful here. There was a path forward, and I was fortunate to get the student visas and then a green card and ultimately citizenship, which I took 12 years ago. And I felt that, you know, the welcoming nature of the US economy and the people and willingness to accept people who are prepared to have a go here, I thought was just wonderful.